next program that I really am excited for you to all learn about is called reflective learning. So Eugene is going to share with us today about this incredible program. We all talk about and how we actually need to help with the children, and this adaptive learning, personalized learning program that Eugene and the team have actually developed is just incredible. So thanks for being here today, Eugene, and thanks for sharing your awesome product.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Karen. I really appreciate the opportunity to share. And I'm going to be sharing a little bit about a problem which I think so many maths teachers face across South Africa, across the world, and that's the issue of backlogs. So we know that as learners progress through grades, often they haven't picked up all the knowledge that is needed in order to move on to the next one. And what we've seen is that over time, these backlogs start to form where learners are in a particular grade, but sometimes have missed these building blocks from before. And so there's a massive challenge to, first of all, understand, where do the problems sit, and then what to do next with it. And so I'm going to quickly share my screen because I think it's useful to show some of the extent of the problem before we get into the solution itself. So sitting here in South Africa, we actually have an issue where about 60% of learners across the country are on average 4 grades behind by the time they reach the end of grade 9. So these are learners that have gone through the first 9 years of school, but are actually 4 years behind. And the problem is that gap never closes up until the point where they write matric exams. Now this we see as I'm showing a graph that's sitting here in South Africa to show this learning gap that exists. But it's an interesting thing because it's not a South African problem. We've seen this in India, we've seen this in developed nations in the UK and the US because of the structure of maths and how it builds on itself right from even before you enter school, so primary school. And so as learners progress through these years, these gaps exist. And often it gets to the point where teachers start to say, but I'm getting so frustrated because I'm teaching, but the learners in my class aren't learning. So what do I do? And so we, over the last few years, we've been running thousands of assessments. Here in South Africa, we've run more than 100,000 assessments to really understand where does the problem exist, so that we can best form a solution around it. And so that's what reflective learning is ultimately about, is to say, how do we answer the problem that almost every teacher faces, to say, how do I ensure that every learner has caught up the fundamental blocks so that when they move forward, they have what they need for the next grade or the next phase. So in terms of reflective learning, there are, in essence, 4 steps to the process that we take learners through. It's important to know that this is a learner-facing tool, as well with a teacher backend, that you're able to see the cohort statistics and all the individualized results that come on the way through. But the first step in the process is to take an assessment. And so what we have done is that we have, in essence, taken, up till the end of grade 9, we've looked at what are the most fundamental concepts that every learner needs to have mastered to be ready for the final 3 years of their schooling. And so we have plotted them along 7 learning trajectories. These are curriculum agnostic, so it doesn't matter what curriculum, because maths is so universal that all the curricula actually hit these fundamental concepts. So there are 81 of them plotted along these 7 learning trajectories. And so the first step is to take an assessment, which I'm going to zoom through very quickly through all of this. So there's a bit of a guideline in terms of the assessment, in terms of how to take it. It's a low stakes assessment, so it's really supposed to be a support and learning tool to identify the gaps, not to be something that learners need to be concerned about. There are also some other elements that we measure besides the conceptual understanding in mathematics. We also understand measuring what we call learning behaviors. These are underlying attitudes and decisions that learners kind of relate to maths. So do I have a positive or a negative mindset towards maths? Do I have a fixed or a growth mindset? What's my level of motivation? How quickly do I work? Do I make careless mistakes along the way? These are all things that influence a learner's mark, but often is very difficult for a teacher to actually measure and to come to understand. So we have some of these pre-framing questions that learners would work through. I'm just going to click through those. And then it gets to the main part of the assessment. We're about 3/4 of the way through for the demo. And so this diagnostic assessment, they have very carefully curated questions that target a specific concept at a specific level. Now that's really important because you might have an understanding to say, well, this learner is struggling with adding fractions. But now how far back do I need to go in order to remediate, to help? Do I need to go back 1 year, 2 years? Do I need to go all the way back to grade 1, potentially? And what we've seen is that even in the most privileged environments, there's the possibility that there are some learners that have totally misunderstood a concept that is really fundamental for them to learn. And so we actually have to go sometimes right back to the beginning of primary school to build up their understanding. So this assessment helps to outline, where does the problem really sit for learners. There are both multiple choice questions, and there's an open-ended constructed type sort of answer that they can give. So things like fractions and exponents can be built in, and they can use as part of the process. This can be done across a mobile device, any tablet, laptop, cell phone, whatever it is. It's built in that sort of way. So I'm just going to quickly just skip through these questions to head on to the next part. It now goes through an automatic marking process, so there's no marking for teachers. And then the next step for us is really important to actually give feedback about the results. We know that many learners actually overestimate their ability in maths, and so it's really important for them to understand that they do have a gap and put it into a form where they understand. So the way that we do it is that we benchmark learners at grade level. So in this case, you can see that I'm in grade 10, but actually in terms of my fractions, I'm operating at a grade 3 level, which means I've got to go back quite a long way. So there's an element of transparency, which is really important for feedback, but the environment of being supportive is also really important for learners so that they can move forward with confidence. And the really exciting thing, which I'll show you at the end, is that learners can catch up a lot in a very short space of time. We also then say that, for each of the 20 concepts within fractions that we're measuring, I've earned 8 stars, which means I've mastered 8 of the concepts. And really for a learner, it's about gaining stars along the way. So that there's a gamification component of this as well, up until the point where they earn a crown. And to earn a crown means that they've mastered the thread enough, or to the point where they actually are at the level which they need to be. So we don't expect perfection, so that you need to have mastered all 20 concepts, but generally about 75%. So if I've earned 15 of those 20 concepts, I earn a crown. And then for a learner, really the game is to say, how do I get across 7 crowns across the 7 learning trajectories to know that I've mastered each one up to the level which I need to be. So there's that feedback component, which is really important. And then we head into the catch-up component. And again, for us, we want to be able to show the big picture of maths. And so we've built out a learning pathways that basically says, this is the most foundational concept that a learner needs to master first, comparing common fractions, which then builds to a more advanced concept. And so there's no way for a learner to jump ahead and do something that actually they think they can do, but maybe there's a more foundational bit that they haven't understood yet. They have to go through this defined learning process. So let me go through the first one, and I'll build my way from bottom to top up until the point where I challenge for the crown, which is a reassessment of those things that I got wrong initially, so I'm able to see progress. So each one of the red rings that you see here is a gap in a learner's understanding. So this is a way of visually explaining where the gaps lie. It kind of works like a traffic light. So the innermost circle, in this case, because it's a high school assessment, we benchmark learners at grade 3. The next circle is benchmarking them at grade 6, and the next is at grade 9 for the outer layer. And so because it's green, I can see that I've mastered both grade 3 and grade 6 level, but I've got a gap between grade 7 to 9 that I need to catch up. And so in that sort of way, we're able to visually explain to learners, this is where your gaps sit, and it builds in as more of a game for them to work through. So then I can go into the catch-up, and for us, it's really important, again, that exactly what I've just explained in terms of the layers and the colors, learners need to be able to understand their own learning and actually analyze through the process. So we take them through a process of analyzing their results for their particular concept. So this is grade 3 level. Because it's green, it means they've mastered it. The next layer is grade 6. And because it's green, it means they've mastered it. And the outer one is grade 9 level. And because it's red, it means I haven't mastered it. And so now at this point, a learner understands that they have a gap, they need to fill it. This is what they need to have accomplished by the end of the module. And now we head into the catch-up. And the catch-up is quite different to the usual kind of maths in that we're not asking sort of question and answer and giving this is your step-by-step working out, because we don't want to train learners into rote learned methodologies. We want to catch up what they missed in terms of the core concept building that they missed from previous years. And so learners work through this. It's primarily image and text-based, which means it's incredibly data light. So anybody from even rural areas won't have a problem. It's a max of about 100 to 150 megs total if you got everything wrong and you needed all the catch-up, which makes it incredibly accessible for learners. So there's an introduction that takes place that gives why is it important for me to learn this concept. It gives the base term vocabulary. And as you can see, we're using lots of different variations in terms of trying to hit the same understanding so that there's variety in learning at the end of the day. And a learner only needs to understand one part in order to get understanding of the concept as a whole. So once they've gone through the introduction, they then get delivered exactly what they need. So in this case, I had mastered up to grade 6 level. I need catch up from grade 7 to 9. And so my particular catch up is focused on that level. Another learner may need to go right back to grade 1. And if that's necessary, that's what we do. We can take learners anywhere from grade 1 up to the end of grade 9. So we're building up those foundational concepts up to where they need to be. But at the same time, we're on a clock and we've got to do it quickly. And so those 4 screens that I've just shown you, or just click through, is caught up 3 grades worth of understanding in comparing common fractions. And so we've gone into great depths to understand what's the best way to teach each concept and build it up systematically. If a learner hasn't understood, so we give them some self-analysis questions. If they haven't understood something, they can go back to that section, continue to revise, work through it, jump forward again, and keep going through the process. So there are some self-analysis questions for learners to work through to make sure that they've understood each component. There's some puzzle questions for them to download in PDF form and check their answers. And then the last 2 aspects, very quickly, is a final thought to be able to take this particular concept, embed it into something more relevant within the world, so they're able to see how it gets used in a practical sense. And the last one is an inspirational story where we have profiled really amazing people that have had to overcome challenges and yet gone on to succeed in life. And the whole idea behind that is to provide role models and to drip feed that positive growth mindset and build intrinsic motivation so that no learner feels that it is impossible. It is possible for every learner to excel in mathematics. That's what we've believed. And importantly, that's what we've seen. I want to show you just quickly 2 learners that went through our sort of pilot right back, in 2012 when this concept was first being developed. And to see how learners in this one, you see this gentleman has improved by 4 grades in the space of only a year. So he's caught up 4 years of work in a single year. And today he's working within the military as a medic. Which is really incredible. And this gentleman over here was the highest sort of growth within this particular pilot project. He grew more than 6 grades. He caught up in the space of 1 year. And today is a maths teacher working back in the same circuit in which he grew up in. And so for us, there's so much opportunity to say, no matter where learners are, we can help them catch up, and we can, take them from where they are and give them hope, to catch up and keep moving forward. So yeah, that's a very quick intro. I'd love to take any questions if there's opportunity.
Eugene, congratulations. That is an amazing, amazing platform. If anyone needs to go and have a look, check out reflectivelearning.co.za. Eugene, would you mind if I asked you a question or two about what I've just seen there? And I must just commend you all behind the scenes there for how well, beautifully put that product is put together. We've got a saying inside Thought Africa, which is if we're providing value, convenience, and support, it's, you're hitting the nail on the head. And we see that you're doing just that. I have to ask, we're all familiar that Sir Ken Robinson passed away, and if we're all familiar with his talk that he actually also gave in, I think, 2012 about schools killing education, and he spoke about how we put kids into different grades and we batch them. And in, with that in mind, I still believe that within, especially like, for example, maths with kids, it's not being taught in a relative way where it's practical, that the information, the data that they're collecting when they take it to fractions or when they take it to data handling, are those numbers actually, real? Have they physically gone and found those numbers with either a ruler or some sort of measuring device, whether it's related to rain or whatever? How have you guys considered incorporating more practical-based experiments within the reflective learning platform?
Yeah, so I think the application, I think for us, it's really important to be able to make maths relevant. That's the first thing, and I think to relate it to real world circumstances. So I think the interesting thing is that a lot of what is being applied in class is dependent on previous prior knowledge. And so for us, the biggest kind of focal point that we've placed is not so much where am I going to apply this, but more so what have I missed along the way that then builds up to my understanding today. And if I can get that in place, then what is taking place inside of the classroom in terms of those applications and where are we taking it, actually becomes accessible. Because unless it's accessible, it doesn't matter what relevance I try to bring to it, I'm still not going to be able to execute the knowledge that I'm supposed to have picked up in the past. So I think, yeah.
And when a student first signs up with reflective learning and they start engaging in the platform and see their journey, and it was an absolutely amazing layout that you had with the red blocks and the green blocks, the design is just absolutely seamless for them to get that visual understanding of where they're at and what gaps they're missing. How do you qualify the students first as they sign up? Because they've just signed up, you've got no data on where they're sitting at. What metrics do you ask for? What do you give them to be able to establish where to get them, going?
Yeah, so I think that's a really great question. I think the assumption is always that, if I'm in the grade I'm sitting in, that's where I need to start. And I think what we've come to see is that you can't make that assumption. If I'm sitting in grade 8 or grade 9, I can't assume I'm at a grade 8 or 9 level. We actually have to assess and understand where are you and work from there. So that's what the initial diagnostic is always about. It's actually to get that baseline view of what is your prior knowledge, and then we build it from there. Because we've just seen that the gaps can be so wide, actually, at the end of the day. So I think once we've got that baseline, we then work from there. And then we understand what you know and what you don't know, and most importantly, what you need in order to actually move forward in your learning of maths.
So looking at your maths program and just those metrics on the results, and you've actually quantified exactly how you've helped and improved someone's mathematics, and no doubt it's absolutely amazing. How can kids get access to this now? So there's millions of children out there that need access to it. How are you getting it to them, and how accessible is it in terms of, is it expensive, etc.?
Yeah, so probably the number one way is we always see this is primarily, it's a support tool for teachers, and for us that's really important, that it's not about cutting teachers out of the process, but it's about supporting them to answer a problem which they face every single day, which is, if I know these gaps exist, what do I do about it? And so it's really, really easy. If you're a teacher, or even if you're a child or a parent and you want to take this to your school, we'd encourage you to do that. You can get hold of us. And the really great thing is that when it comes to working with schools, we offer free assessments up front. So we want to be able to put data into your hands to understand and make great decisions. So come run the assessments, understand where your learners sit, then you can make a decision from there. And depending on the background of the school, we have different pricing structures, so that we try to make it as affordable for every learner here in South Africa. And that's imperative. We have to make this accessible, because it's learners across the board that need support. And so we want to come to party as a company and partner with schools in that affordable sort of way.
It's absolutely, absolutely fantastic. We really appreciate people like you out there giving such tremendous value in the education space when it comes to, qualifying kids as to where their maths level is at. And we all know maths is huge in absolutely everything, even to art to some extent. So congratulations, and have a great day. Thanks for joining today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. Thanks, John.